Go.
Big shout out to today's show sponsor, Squad QL. And yes, for one last round, Squad.
Squaw.
The roster management assistant to help you win your league this fantasy football season. Squad QL gives you an advantage by directly connecting to any league on Yahoo, ESPN, and apparently CBS, since we're talking shit about them last week.
That was Wednesday.
Or Wednesday. It's been a weird week. Pulls in your roster, league settings, and scoring system, provide recommendations on waiver moves and starting lineup decisions. Can even help you make them some trade recommendations to give you that extra advantage you need to win your league this year. Head to squadql.com to download the all-in-one Fantasy Football Manager app. And if you need some help like Hopper, go ahead over to rotoql.com.
I need a lot of help.
All the help.
If you need some DFS help, leading fantasy lineup optimizer trusted by 100,000 DFS players worldwide. Let's preview some games. Welcome back to Beer Fueled Fantasy Football. It's time to preview 15 games for Week 3. Get you all set for all your matchups. We are Beer Fueled Fantasy Football. I'm Nick Sparts, joined as always by Dan Thury across the table from me.
And Thury BFF. What's up, guys?
And to my left, getting ready to go out to dinner, Christopher Hopper.
Hot BFF with 2 Ps. How y'all doing?
Hope we can make it under the deadline here.
We're going to go. We're going to try.
So on today's episode, we got 15 game previews for you. Go over all the injury news that we know for players who are questionable and or out this weekend. And we also have to recap what happened in the Thursday night game where a certain team that hadn't won in over a year got themselves a win.
Spoiler alert.
Before we get to all that...
Well, way to spoil that outcome.
Yes,
because nobody knew already.
Yeah.
If you don't have Sleeper installed and didn't get the notification, that's your own problem. All right. Quick reminder for all of us, you can follow us on Twitter, BeerFueledFF. That's also where you can find us on Instagram and Untapped if you want to get beer reviews and can art. Beerfield Fantasy Footballs for Facebook and YouTube. Once again, one last big shout out to everyone who joined us the first 2 weeks on YouTube. We go live at 10:30 in the morning on Sundays. We cover all your news, inactives, and we answer your questions to help you guys get ready for the week. We're going to be doing that every week this season. Feel free if you want to help support the show, like our videos and comment on your fantasy questions to help boost visibility on our YouTube channel. Drop reviews. We got another 2 that came through the other day on iTunes. I appreciate all of that.
Love you guys for that.
Nice.
And if you want to throw some financial support, go ahead and hit up BeerfieldFF on Twitter or email beerfieldfantasy@gmail.com. I can hook you up with merch, or I can link you to our Patreon if you want to support us directly that way. Appreciate all of that, but let's go ahead and hit a beer preview and get into this episode. Beer Fuel. And if you want to support us another way and you want to get a beer on from where you're at that we can't get here in Springfield, Illinois, hint, it's most of the rest of the country we can't get our hands on, so any help is appreciated.
All the help.
You can send us beer. So I want to send a shout out to Alex Newman at Guamdon on Twitter, GUAMDON, for providing the beer on this episode. He sent us Nice Things IPA by Dock Street Brewing. They're based out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. First time on the show because we can't even get it here.
I love this can art.
I know.
Real simple, but I like it a lot. Check out Instagram, BeerFieldFF, if you want to see the can art.
Real simple. There's a dude riding a shark.
Holding a beer.
Holding a beer.
I meant not busy is what I meant, sorry.
It's fantastic.
Nice Things IPA. It comes in at 6.4% ABV. It's got Mosaic, Amarillo, and Simcoe hops. And it's supposed to be hazy, hoppy, and heady.
The shark has an anchor in his mouth.
Triple HO does.
He does. Wow.
Look at that.
All right, the more I'm looking at, the more this is impressive.
Yeah, I feel like you just undersold this.
Hey, look, I read the script. News comes after Beer Fuel.
Yes,
Hopper did things right.
All right, and we need another drop if you continue reading.
I stopped. What are we reading for?
A certain person might be in some legal jeopardy.
Oh, no, wait, that's already... Sorry, we had some technical difficulty earlier pre-show, so everything's out of order, and like half the drops we've been using fell off the soundboard, even though I still have the root files because it didn't save. So yeah, that was there. It was just in a different spot.
All right, production meeting over.
Yep.
Dallas Morning News reports Terrence Williams is facing a 2 to 4 game suspension based off his off-season arrest.
Maybe he'll get cut.
He didn't even deserve that drop. Terrence, this is the best thing that could happen to the Cowboys.
It was only one of 2 pieces of news I had. The other was updating a previous report from Matt Thury, BFF. Antonio Brown is expected to play in Week 3.
This is why you don't skim things, friends. This is why you don't skim.
That was not intentional.
All right. Well, we do have an injury.
I know we do.
Now,
I was trying to get down to that one and I clicked the wrong one.
Monday hangovers.
Really long hangovers.
Very long hangovers.
Into the next week hangovers.
Like,
I've had a couple of those.
They're so hungover that they haven't even started drinking yet.
we should attain
hangover.
that to hangovers.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go through all the positions here of players that we know are either questionable or out for this week. Aaron Rodgers with his knee is questionable for week 3 against the Redskins. I expect this to continue.
He'll probably play.
It sounds like he is going to go. Less sure is Marcus Mariota with his nerve injury in his elbow. He is questionable for week 3 against the Jaguars.
I'd expect him probably not to
Don't start
play.
him anyways.
No,
Probably
no
don't want to
sense in
start him
risking
anyway, though. Delvin Cook hamstring is out for week 3 against the Bills.
Latavius Murray, I got asked about Mike Boone. It's interesting to watch, but not yet.
Yep.
You'd have to be a super deep league.
Murray
Yeah.
moved up to my RB16.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
interesting to see how he's used. I got a high-pitched whistle in my ear.
Oh.
Anyway, it's interesting to see how he's used, but yeah, not worth starting.
All right.
I'm going to ignore that.
JJ with his back injury is out week 3 against the Colts.
Corey Clement, top 20 play this week.
Yep.
Good matchup.
Because Darren Sproles is also out this week, so it's
Yeah.
really Clement, Smallwood, and Josh Adams.
Right.
Oof. Jesus.
Gross.
Marlon Mack, foot hamstring issues, so a double whammy here, is out week 3 against the Eagles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Horrible matchup.
So
either
Jordan
way.
Wilkins, again, I mean, it's not a great matchup, but
Volume.
I mean,
your volume will be there.
Hines is not terrible.
Hines isn't terrible either, no, because without Mack, Hines took most of the receiving work. Will Wilkins took most of between the tackle stuff. So
Yep.
yeah, both of them are deeper flex starts if you need them.
all right. It sounds like Fournette's good to go, but Yeldon with his ankle injury is questionable for week 3 against the
So
Titans.
Corey Grant stays relevant.
Corey Grant somehow stays relevant.
He's on my bench still.
All right. On to receivers. Marvin Jones with his ankle injury is questionable for week 3 against the Patriots.
This is a late week injury.
Happened Thursday.
Yep. Keep an eye on this. If he doesn't play, just boost Galladay and Tate more.
God, Jesus.
I don't know if I can boost Galladay anymore.
I don't think I
Can't
can
go any higher.
He can't go higher.
He's
but
already too high. He
he's
can't go
I think
any
I
higher.
might have him as a wide receiver 1 already. I think he's my 11.
Yeah, he somehow might though.
Marquise Goodwin is going to be a game time decision week 3 against the Chiefs.
He's been practicing limitedly, so I'd probably expect him to play, but definitely keep an eye on that because he's very startable if he does go.
Yep.
All right. And this is kind of the opposite type of news. Alshon Jeffrey is not out. He is questionable week 3 against the Colts, so he is progressing in the right direction.
He's still not been cleared for contact.
I don't think he
So,
plays.
I don't think he plays.
I think it's like a 1% chance he plays, but it's right direction we're moving. We may see him week 4. Paul Richardson, another guy with double injuries here, knee and shoulder, questionable for week 3 against the Packers.
Probably not. So a lot of Crowder.
I hope so. It clears up that receiving core.
All right. Cole Beasley, ankle injury, questionable week 3 against the Seahawks.
I don't care.
Yep.
Travis Benjamin, foot, questionable week 3 against the Rams.
Still
More-
don't care.
More Mac Williams.
That helps
Yeah.
the Williams.
Helps Williams some.
Rob Gronkowski, ankle injury is reported, and nothing to worry about. He is
I'm not worried about it.
I'm not worried about
I
it.
believe everything Gronk says.
to a fault.
To a fault.
Jack Doyle, hip injuries, out week 3 against the Eagles.
Ebron, very good start.
Yeah, who else is he going to throw the ball to except Ebron and Hilton?
Nobody. Naeem Hines.
Yeah. that'd be
Ryan
the third.
Grant.
Antonio Gates is questionable for week 3 against the Rams.
Okay.
That's how you have to attack the Rams, though. So Antonio Gates, even though he's had like no work, I don't know how else they're going to attack the Rams.
Virgil
other than-
Green.
Yeah, if he doesn't play Virgil Green, if you're extremely desperate,
They're going to line up
because,
Keenan Allen.
I mean, you
tight end.
can't throw it to the running backs the entire game. You got to throw it to somebody downfield, and Allen also because they'll be able to move him away from matchups. But I actually liked Antonio Gates this week.
Well, we may not like him much longer if he can't get his health together.
Yeah, and by liked, I mean very, very cautiously. Like,
He was in your rankings this week. Is that what you're trying to say?
yeah, I walked into a place where nothing
Nothing.
else was served, so I went with Coors.
All right. Well, with that thought process, you should have said Bud Light. We're going with Thursday Night Recap.
Is it Thursday night recap
It
time?
is.
What the hell happened? So that dropped. There it is.
What the hell happened?
And I forgot to write the score down, but thankfully I remember it's the Cleveland Baker Mayfields beat the Jets 21-17.
Yep. All right. Well,
Cleveland Mayfield.
we'll go ahead and start with the Jets because that's the less exciting part of this. Sam Darnold, 15 for 31, 2 picks, 169 yards. Growing pains against a really good defense.
Yeah, and the picks were late in comeback mode.
Yeah, they were. So one of them was at the very end of the game, actually. So nothing to worry about. He's a rookie. You're going to have some games like this against better defenses. He's not startable. He's a dynasty play. I'm not at all put off from Darnold.
Plus, it was a short week, too.
Short week. The offense isn't
on the road
that great anyway.
Good
on
defense.
the road, good defense.
Yeah.
Throw it out.
Throw out a game.
As for the running backs, Bilal Powell was 14 for 73 with 1 target. He was the most efficient. Crowell had 18 carries for only 39 yards, but he got the 2 touchdowns. So he looks like he's the goal line back, and this backfield looks like a whole lot of I don't know what to do with it.
Yep.
When Crow got a chance, he looked really
Because
good.
you don't want to rely on touchdowns though.
No, I know.
And that's where he got the chance was on the goal line because 14 for 39 is not great efficiency.
Well, no, I'm not saying
Yeah.
I'm not saying overall. I'm saying when he actually got a lane to run through, he looked good.
He had a lot of negative plays where he got hit in the
He did.
backfield.
He did.
Again, really good defense.
I'm not liking the Well twins much week to week.
No, the Owl twins.
The Wells.
Oh well. Yes,
We're not going to those wells.
We're not going to go to those wells much. And then Quincy Anoon was the only real receiving option, wide receiver or tight end worth talking about. He was 4 for 57. Nobody else did a lot of anything.
Robbie Anderson fumbled.
Robbie Anderson fumbled. Pryor had 1 target. That's it for the Jets. Anything else there?
No.
And if you haven't gotten the memo, you can absolutely drop Robbie Anderson.
Yes.
All right. On to the Browns. So starting with Tyrod Taylor. He started this game ugly, 4 for 14, 19 yards, constantly on his ass. And then he went and got himself concussed, and that's when everything good happened.
All this energy calling me.
Baker Mayfield. I'm trying to give a review, damn it.
Such a crude attitude.
Baker Mayfield came in, 17 for 23, 201. Every drive he led was a scoring drive. Cleveland comes back and they finally win. Enjoy your Bud Light.
I won't.
For those not watching on YouTube, we just broke out Bud Light.
I had no idea that was coming.
I know.
We discuss things behind your
Baker
back.
comes
because
in.
things-
The line parts for Carlos Hyde. They win a game.
Drew.
Carlos
Bruce.
Hyde did look better in this one, finally.
He did because Baker could actually throw. He opened the field up for him. He didn't look good to start with Taylor getting blown up. Then once Baker got there, got onto the field, again, 17-23, 201, 3 drops, including a deep ball to Callaway. So it could even been better.
Why'd you have to do pounders?
Hyde, 23 for 98, 2 touchdowns. He opened up when Baker got in there. Duke Johnson.
There you go.
That guy. I almost forgot his name because we haven't had to talk about him a whole lot. 2 targets, 2 receptions. Both of those were with Baker. Jarvis Landry, 15 targets, 8 for 103. All but 1 reception was with Baker. Callaway had 10 targets, only 20 yards. He did have a bad drop deep, though, so his breakout, I think, is coming with that target volume. It's only a matter of time.
I thought Higgins actually looked pretty good, too.
Higgins looked good and limited, but he didn't get a lot of looks. Same thing with Njoku. He looked good, but only had 3 targets also. So Njoku, there's hope there. Callaway with the target volume, it's only a matter of time. Landry looks like he could be a back end 1. Baker Mayfield, though, is going to be the thing that most people are going to try to run out and get from this game. My advice on that, still a rookie quarterback. He's going to be fun to watch. He looks amazing, but from a fantasy redraft productivity standpoint in 1 quarterback leagues, unless you're desperate, don't go use the roster spot yet.
And if you were in 12-team 2 quarterback where you might consider starting him, he was already owned anyway. So
Yeah, exactly. So the only way you're picking up Baker Mayfield right now is if you went out and got Deshaun Watson and you're concerned about him, then maybe he's worth rostering to keep an eye on before the rest of your league.
Mariota,
gets him.
16-team leagues,
Yeah,
maybe.
Mariota. 12-team leagues, you probably got better streamers right now, but he could be in the streaming conversation. So I'm not saying don't roster him. I'm saying that it's a very specific condition where you should right now.
I'm really excited when Todd Haley lets this offense open up, especially in the red zone. That's where I'm going to really love Njoku because they didn't really let Baker do much when they got down there.
So if you are interested in considering Mayfield as a streamer, may I possibly recommend weeks 7 and 9 when they get the Buccaneers and the Chiefs?
Yeah. At minimum, they got the Steelers one more time.
We got to wait till Monday for Hugh Jackson to make the worst decision
Well,
of his life.
the rumor is Taylor is going to just concede the starting role, is what
Good.
came out.
Thanks,
So
Taylor.
that would be smart on his part.
I didn't include it in news because it was a
And-
rumor, but
Okay.
If that happens, and if he does concede the starting role and comes out and says that he's okay with that, ups to Tyrod Taylor for being a true
Hell yeah.
team guy in that case.
he's going to go on the bench and Alex Moran the shit out of this.
All right.
All right.
Week 3 previews,
Yep.
please.
After I just chugged an entire Bud Light.
I'm not sorry.
Preview.
I did not chug mine because I was talking, but it tastes like victory.
Ugh.
An ass.
Man, if
Which
that's,
is kind of like victory.
if
some
that's what
days.
victory tastes like, I'm not sure I want to win.
Also, sweet water. Yeah, that's what victory tastes like.
Oh,
I was drinking the IPA to get the taste
Hold
of the
on,
Bud Light.
I was gonna say I gotta chase it with the better beer.
All right, Giants at the Texans. We're not going to get Anheuser-Busch as a sponsor anytime soon.
well, I don't
Fat
think
chance
so.
we were gonna get that
All right,
anyway.
We got 15 previews to get through here. We got an hour before Hopper's got to get the fuck out
All
of
right,
here.
let's fucking go.
Giants at the Texans. Texans favored by 6. Only a 42.5 point over-under in this one. The expectations are not high for an Eli Manning, Deshaun Watson shootout in this one. Eli Manning gets an okay Texans defense. Kept Brady to 22.9 points in week 1. I do expect him to be absolutely under fire because the offensive line is terrible. Terrible. So he should be close to his season average, about 15 points per game that he's put up the first 2. Maybe he pokes up to like 18. I wouldn't start him. Barkley runs into an average defense in the Texans, but he got 14 catches last week. He's getting targeted in the passing game at an unbelievable rate. He's an RB1. Start him in any sort of PPR format without even concerning yourself about it. I do like Odell this week. He only got a few targets last week against the Cowboys, and I can't figure out why. They're going to correct that.
You're not going to bench Odell.
He'll be back to his normal 10-target floor, and that should keep him safe for you this week. I actually don't mind Shepard as a desperation start, though, as guys running out of the slot, Dorsett and Taylor, both had decent games the first 2 weeks against him. I like him as kind of a desperation wide receiver 4 for you this week. At this point, you can't bench Ingram. There's not enough other tight ends to go around to put him on your bench at this point. But basically what you're hoping for with him, I went deep dove his history. You need 7+ targets for him to be relevant. If you get less than 7, it's basically a dud for him. If you get 7+, he tends to give you a pretty solid game.
Some good investigative work.
So you're hoping for 7. On the Texans side, Winston gets the Giants defense, held both their first 2 quarterback opponents under 15 points. It was Bortles and Dak, so I do expect a better game from him out of this, but I like him as a fringe quarterback 1 if you can't find a better matchup. You may be able to find a better matchup out there this week, like Ryan Fitzpatrick. Giants have allowed an opposing running back touchdown in the first 2 weeks. That was Yeldon and Zeke, and at least 80 rushing yards total from their opponents. So Miller, considering he's going to get the majority of the work here, he should be a mid-running back too this week. This is actually a decent matchup for him. Giants have been excellent against wide receivers outside of Austin's 64-yard touchdown. So Hopkins is a must-start no matter what. But if you're looking at Fuller, you're basically hoping you get a big play because they're actually pretty decent against opposing wide receivers. I like him more as a wide receiver 3 than some people have been projecting him as like a wide receiver 20 this week. I think that's too high.
That's about where I've got Fuller this week.
20?
He's always a big play guy.
Yeah, it may be slightly higher. He's always a big play guy, but just what he does with Deshaun Watson. I mean, he's had a touchdown in the last 6 games.
Yeah.
And been over 50 yards. So
I would not be shocked if this is the game it ends.
Every
This-
2.6 receptions, he gets a touchdown.
The Giants secondary has actually played very well so far this year. It's been the offense that's been screwing this
Oh.
team.
so far, so we'll see what that sounds like a shot bet actually.
They haven't really played against high passing volumes either.
What's
so-
the line?
Will Fuller wide receiver 2? Split the difference. You said wide receiver 3, so top 24.
So the line's 24?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take that.
All right. I don't have the drop queued, but shot bet.
Ziggy-zaggy,
Ziggy-zaggy,
ziggy-zaggy.
oi, oi, oi.
Ziggy-zaggy,
Ziggy-zaggy.
ziggy-zaggy. Oi, oi, oi.
Okay, move on.
And then I do like the Texans defense against a bad Giants offensive line. Should get at least a couple sacks. Clowney is back this week, which helps that pass rush immensely. All right, that's all I got for this game. Let's go to the shootout of the week, Dan. 49ers at the Chiefs. Chiefs favored by 7. It's a 56-point over-under on this
It
game.
just
Let's
keeps going
go.
up. All right, we'll make this go quick. Start with the 49ers. You're going to start Jimmy G, Matt Breida. Good one if you play as Garcon and Kittle. Jimmy G is Nick's start of the week. Chiefs have given up the most points quarterbacks to start the season. Nearly 34 points per game, including back-to-back 400-yard games.
This would be quicker if it was who are you not starting?
With 3 passes, yeah, right. Alfred Morris with three passing touchdowns in each game, and then Dante Pettis if Godwin or Goodwin plays.
Yeah, if Goodwin plays, you bench Pettis. If he doesn't, you probably still start him.
Anyways, Matt Breida, Chiefs have given up the third most receptions and most receiving yards to pass catching backs these first 2 weeks. The only thing that concerns me about Breida is that Garoppolo has only targeted the running game 8 times these first 2 games. But
Shanahan's got to know you got to attack him that way, though. Worked.
It's still there. It's still there. And as for the receivers, I like Goodwin if he plays. There's going to be a lot of volume, a lot of potential scoring and big plays for him there if he suits up. But what I really like is what Garcon can bring you. Slot receivers have destroyed the Chiefs. Keenan Allen went 8 for 108 and 1 on 11 targets. Juju went 13 for 121 and 1 on a crazy 19 targets. I love Garcon this week. As for Kittle, the addition of Eric Berry sours this one a little bit, but not enough to sit Kittle. There's not an option here. And Jesse James went off against the Chiefs, and Titans as a whole last week went off against the Chiefs. 8 for 164 and on 10 targets. You can play Robbie Gould, but the Chiefs have only given up 2 field goals and 3 extra points so far. So not a lot of love there. A lot of points is why you can play them, but if they're behind early, they're not kicking field goals.
So those of you panicking about Eric Berry possibly shedding Kittle, he's doubtful this week. So
even better.
Don't even get that.
Yeah, I saw that he was doubtful earlier. So.
The bench, you're going to bench Morris next to the week. Chiefs have given up only 30 attempts so far and a timeshare with no passing work. You can sit them. As for the Chiefs, you're starting Mahomes, Hunt, Hill, Mahomes, Hunt, Hill, Watkins, Kelsey, and Bucker. Basically, you're not starting their defense. Mahomes, you have to play him every week. Hunt, because he gives you great floor. He's an RB2 no matter what, and the volume's going to come. Hill is a must start. Watkins finally got it going last week. The Niners have given up a lot of points to receiving cores, including Diggs and Thielen. Then when they went 11 for 163 and 1 on 22 targets. And then the Lions' trio of receivers went 17 for 252 and 2 on 31 targets.
I was aiming for the camera.
You're not going to flex there's no flex or sit options here because it's 56 points overall.
Yeah, you're starting almost everybody.
And that's all we got.
All right.
I wanted that to look cool on the camera shot, not aiming for the garbage can there, by the way.
They don't have to know.
So we go from shootout of the week to the most lopsided game of the week. Bills at the Vikings. Vikings favored by 17 in week 3, which is absurd.
I take
the
Bills there.
Shout out 538 on the article on this one. 40.5 point over under. Hopper, what do you got?
Yeah, I'd take the Bills on the spread there, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with no Cook, that helps.
Yep.
It does. For the Vikings, who are you not starting? Dalvin Cook's hurt. Other than that, Kirk Cousins, QB4 coming in. He's averaging 30.3 points over the first 2 weeks. Bills are allowing 27.2 per game. Your only concern with the Cousins is the Vikings get too far ahead early and he doesn't have to throw.
Yeah, if you're starting Cousins, you're really hoping for no pick sixes.
Pretty much. Latavius Murray, he's an RB2. I like game script for him in this one. I think that the Vikings do go up and just kind of try to run the football.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
He's an RB2 for me. Diggs, Thielen, both come in as top 10 wide receivers. Buffalo hasn't given up a ton of yardage in the first 2 weeks. High of 67. Again, game script for those guys, but you're still starting both of them. I mean,
and this offense seems to want to just throw the ball a lot.
Yeah, they're 2 floor, 1 upside. Rudolph, same thing. Like with wide receivers, they don't give up a ton, but you probably can't afford to not start Kyle Rudolph given the current state of tight ends.
Yep.
So that's it for the Vikings. For the Bills, I'm starting nobody.
That is the correct answer.
Yep.
So a quick rundown on that. Minnesota is allowing the 5th fewest points to quarterbacks against Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy Garoppolo. The 8th fewest points to wide receivers. Buffalo is only higher than Washington and Arizona in wide receiver points scored so far this year. So they're at the bottom, whereas the Vikings are 8th and fewest against the Niners and the Packers. Buffalo tight ends are averaging a whole 4.3 points a game. Minnesota is giving up 9.5 a game, so maybe Clay, if you're desperate at tight end, which is the only position you should be desperate enough to start somebody here. And Buffalo's best running back performance this year is Chris Ivory's 2 for 7 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah,
So-
Jesus Christ.
Point wise, yeah, 9.7 is the
Because
best
he
running
stole
back
that touchdown from McCoy.
performance they've gotten, and
Yeah.
that's it.
and McCoy possibly he didn't have a questionable tag last I saw, but he's dealing with ribs and he may not even go, or they may.
I can see Marcus Murphy getting a bunch of garbage.
I want to
this
see,
week.
and at this point, if I drafted McCoy, there's probably other people I have. Well, I know for me, there's other people that I have because I did draft McCoy in a couple places that I'm gonna run out there ahead of him.
Yeah,
Until he does it.
almost every league I have McCoy. I have options. I'm starting over him.
I got him in Scott Fish. That's already brutal enough.
Yep. That's it for that game. It's a pretty simple one. You got Vikings start him, you got Bills don't.
Yep. All right. Dan's going to have a lot of noon games here. So moving on to Raiders at the Dolphins. Dolphins favored by 3, 44.5 point over under. Who do you like out of this game, Dan?
Raiders starts Lynch, Cooper, Cook. So we'll start with Lynch here. Back-to-back solid performances against good to great run defenses. Lynch also gets a decent matchup against the Dolphins. Game script should be fine for them as his touches should be closer to 20. His yak is a little bit questionable at 3.7, but he's still a good play. Cooper, finally Gruden gave us what Troopers were looking for. Those are targets. This is a much easier matchup for what he faced in weeks 1 and 2. And I understand while people still want to sit Cooper potentially, it's going to be very difficult to do so. You're running Cooper out there no matter what.
No, I'm playing Cooper this week. I like him a lot.
And then as for Jared Cook, it's just a state of tight ends at this point. He couldn't get it going against the Broncos last week, but I think that was because Gruden wanted to correct the Cooper game script. So you're still running Cook out there.
I'm still a little worried about what we've seen out of the first 2 weeks of Gruden, where he's kind of over-focused on somebody. So
he overcorrects his mistakes.
So we may see a situation where somebody gets left out to dry that's actually in a decent matchup. So keep an eye on this. I hope it kind of normalizes over after a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the Raiders outside of Cooper and Cook, I'm not real in Lynch in a flex area. I'm not real comfortable with anybody.
I mean, he's still a start, but he's going to be a flex for most people.
Yeah, it's fringe.
Yeah, and then there is no other flex plays there. And as for our bench, you're going to bench everybody else. Derek Carr had a great week too. From an efficiency standpoint, you still can't trust him.
It's his ceiling, and his ceiling is Jared Goff's floor.
Well, and he completed 29 passes, I believe, and only had 282 yards.
It was 29 to 32 for 282 and none.
Yeah.
And no touchdowns.
No touchdowns.
Yeah, so
Dolphins have also given up the third fewest points to QBs this season. So, granted, that was against the Titans, the Beta Mariota, and against the Jets in game script.
So I expect Carr to exceed their average so far, but it's still not a great matchup.
we're in that really weird part of the season where we can't really use last year's stats because we kind of know what people are, but it's only been 2 weeks, so
Yeah,
things
so
are
you
still
gotta-
really skewed.
And then
we know some things.
and then the
Yeah.
rest of the bench this year, Jalen Richard is game script dependent. I don't expect game script to be good for him. And then Nelson and Bryan just don't get enough volume. That's it for the Raiders. That's for the Dolphins. Drake's a great start this week. Hopper start of the week. Dolphins have given up 22.85 points per game to running backs to start this season at a 5.7 yards per carry mark. It's a great play. Oakland has given up 5.7 yards per carry to start this season in back-to-back 100-yard games. Drake is a great play. Flex play, Stills. Stills is the wide receiver 1 for the Dolphins, but only 8 targets through 2 games isn't good. He's more boom bust, but there could be some big plays in this game. So if you need somebody out there, Stills is not a terrible play.
I want to see the Dolphins get into like kind of a tough matchup or a game where they actually have to throw, because I want to see what this offense does in a high-powered offense, because they've kind of been really conservative through 2 weeks. I think
It's very difficult to decide what this offense actually is.
Tannehill, I think, is less than 60 attempts in through 2 games right now.
He's at 398 yards total.
Yeah,
So he's not even averaging 200 yards a game yet.
he's not just. They're basically just not throwing the ball very much.
And then,
Nope, but he's got 2 touchdowns in both of them.
yep.
That's true.
And speaking of benching everybody else, Tannehill, he's got 2. He's
We just covered that.
the bench. Raiders have only given up 2 passing touchdowns too. Better streaming options. Gore doesn't get volumes, and the rest of the receiving core, including tight ends. Why? Just sit them.
No,
That's it.
Oh, and Gesicki, by the way, I don't know if we covered him on Monday's episode. He's also a drop.
He
we
shouldn't have been
did, but-
rosterable in the first place.
Shut up.
Love you.
Shots fired. All right.
And I
He
like
might-
him.
he
I
might-
like him too.
He might still be rostered because my dumbass set wide receiver limits in our listener league, and there's not a running back I want. So he's still rostered.
He's still rosterable in 1 league.
over a third quarterback.
By the way, don't set roster limits unless you're doing it for a very specific reason. Running backs and wide receivers should never have roster limits.
Yep, that one's on me. That one's on me. Sorry, guys.
All right.
Moving on to Packers at the Redskins. Packers favored by 3 on the road, 45.5 point over under. Kicking off with the Packers. Rodgers is playing. You are going to start him. You shouldn't hold 2 QBs if you have a healthy-ish Rodgers. So if you have another quarterback, unless it's like Patrick Mahomes or something, cut their ass. Do expect a lower quarterback one-ish day out of him this week, though. It's a decently tough matchup. PFF has actually rated the Redskins as a very, very good secondary so far, which is a surprise because they were expected to be terrible.
They have a fantastic slot corner.
This is the benchmark test right now.
Yeah,
if they perform against the Packers, then I've got to start taking it seriously.
Even a banged up Rodgers, if they perform well.
Yeah,
I agree completely.
Aaron Jones is back, so basically the entire running game gets cratered.
McCarthy might be Hugh Jackson.
McCarthy is a horrible coach. Sorry, DJ.
Rodgers has done for McCarthy for a couple of years what Mayfield did for Hugh Jackson last night. And just
bought him time.
Yeah, just covered for the fact that he's a terrible coach because he came out and pretty much said that Jamal Williams, who's done nothing, and Ty Montgomery, who's done nothing, are over Aaron Jones right now. Why would you not try to see what you have?
I can see Jamal Williams as he's the best pass blocking running back there.
Put him in on third down because he can also catch.
Exactly.
Or at least be like, hey, Jones is going to get 20 snaps in his first
set
game
up
back or something.
Or set up their run to protect your quarterback.
So,
anyways, go ahead.
Anyway, enough on that.
If you're going to start one, it's Williams.
It's done.
But I'd rather do none.
Don't.
Try to avoid all three.
Yes.
Adams is a must-start low-end wide receiver 1 this week. As I mentioned earlier, Redskins defense has been solid this year, so lower expectations, but he's still start for you. I'd bench Allison. Cobb is actually a decent option because kind of shifty speed guys who run out of the slot have actually done pretty well. Hilton and Fitz are the only two that have done anything against this defense.
And that's what Cobb is.
Yeah.
So Cobb is actually an okay start. I like him as a wide receiver 3. Graham got it figured out in week 2, so he's a must-start from here on out at this point. He's proven enough for me.
I mean, there's no tight end depth.
I actually kind of like him this week to get his first touchdown of the year because they haven't really faced anybody at tight end, and I guess you're not throwing against these corners, so throw it to Graham.
Yeah, might as well.
And actually, Redskins' offense has been pretty inept so far, so I don't hate the Packers' defense if you're looking desperate for a streamer.
Smith doesn't throw a lot of
You can
turnovers.
probably-
That's what scares me the most. He's smart with the football. Smith.
That is true, but probably get some sacks, and overall, I'd rather go for somebody like the Cowboys, somebody like that. But if you can't get any of those, go for the Packers. On the Redskins side, Smith was a dud against the Colts, and the Packers have at least been okay quarterback defense-wise this year. Basically, it took Cousins in catch-up mode to have a decent day. They did great week 1. They're not this terrible defense they were in 2017, so they're not a plus matchup. They're just a average to maybe slightly above average matchup. I'm benching Smith this week. Peterson and Thompson are both running back 3s. Howard and Cook both went for over 80 yards, but no running back has a touchdown yet against the Packers. If I'm starting one, I'd rather start Thompson just because he's getting so much volume in the passing game.
I mean, Thompson's like a floor RB2. Smith loves to throw to his running backs.
By the way, I don't like you right now because I have to start Peterson.
So do I, and Scott Fish.
Mark Ingram.
I'm starting Peterson in places too that I've got him too.
It's Peterson or McCoy.
We're in some really deep leagues that do not apply that most people are listening to our
Shout out to Scott Fish.
True.
I don't want anything to do with any of the receivers on the Redskins. If I'm picking one, it's Crowder, and even then, I'm still trying to avoid
Crowder
it.
if Richardson does
I like
not
Crowder
play.
with Richardson not there because they're going to have to throw, so he should at least be targeted. I love
We'd
Reed.
hope. So Thielen out of the slot last week, 12 catches, 131 yards on 13 targets.
Crowder should shift outside, though, I would think.
I'd hope not. I want him running out of the slot.
No.
They may find. Well, we'll see. Who knows?
They'll put him where he needs to be to succeed.
So if you're in full point PPR or maybe half point PPR, he might be a desperation flex for you. With how anemic this passing game is, though, I'm benching all of them.
Please give me good news on Jordan Reed.
Please.
Jordan Reed has become a must start, so
Has
you're
to
starting him.
Yeah.
Rule 86.
Roll 86.
The offense looks pretty inept outside of him and Thompson, and Rudolph had a pretty solid week last week. I think he's going to get at least 60 yards, and he's got a good shot at a touchdown.
Yep.
All right. Titans at the Jags. Back to Dan. 6.5 favorites for the Jags on this one. I think that's a little light.
We'll start with
39.5 point over under. And
We'll start-
Hopper's too happy.
We'll start with the Titans.
Happy
There
about
are
both
no
teams' matchups.
there are no starts for Titans. None. Absolutely none. There's only 2 flex plays, Lewis and Davis. Lewis, not a great matchup, but James White got it going against his defense last week. 8 targets, 7 for 73.
Pass catching backs are how you have to attack Jacksonville. It's the only way you can.
And the only reason Davis is a flex is because you may not be able to bench him. And I understand.
And
He was a round 6 pick. Depends.
Maybe.
He was your sit of the week, and I do agree with that, though.
It depends how running back heavy you went.
Yep.
You may not have enough receiver depth to
Well,
not
Ramsey's
catch him.
also questionable. So there's that also.
Okay.
Tune in Sunday. We'll talk about if Ramsey is inactive.
That's true.
Follow
Yeah.
us at Beerfield Fantasy Football.
He's
All right.
questionable with an ankle
Davis has
injury.
also gotten 20 targets these first 2 weeks, so at least he'll give you that type of volume. He's had floor games the last 2 games. And Mariota is
Probably going to play.
Eh.
Well, we don't know.
As for benching everybody else, Mariota's on 100%. Horrible matchup. Henry is at 2.9 yards per carry. Only 35% snap share last week. It was up from week 1, but that is fucking terrible.
And I expect him to be losing, which is not good for
And
him.
avoid pass catchers as well, because you can't really toes in. You get that one lone touchdown potentially if Jacksonville even gives one up. As for Jacksonville, starters are Bortles, Fournette if he plays, in the defense. Bortles. I like Bortles with or without Fournette, but without Fournette, Bortles is the QB1 easy. 325 yards, 2 touchdowns, 9.8 yards per an attempt in those 4 games. It is insane how they want to focus his game on Fournette.
Well, unfortunately, it looks like Fournette's going to play.
With Fournette in, 186, 1 touchdown, 5.7, but Fournette's banged up. And then Bortles has proven that he can still produce with Fournette in, and as we saw last season at the end of the year. Either way, I like Bortles this week. If Fournette plays, you have to play him at this point.
Bortles is my top streamer, so
Yeah, Titans have given up 4.8 yards per carry to running backs this season, though they've given up only 6 targets.
I like it, and I like him even more if Yeldon's out.
I do too.
Yeah. As for your flex plays, you got Keelan Cole and D.D. Westbrook. That's only because you don't really know. Both have had nice weeks, but the targets have gone.
I think Cole's more than a flex.
I think Cole's a start.
and that's fine. I'm just saying, for a lot of people, he's a flex
But-
option for most people.
Westbrook is definitely a flex.
Yes.
And Corey Grant, I think, without TJ Yeldon, probably is also.
Yeah. As for Moncrief, he leads all Jags receivers with 14 targets, but you can leave him on the bench because he's on absolute shit with those targets. And this goes along with ASJ because he's only gotten 5 targets in each of his first games, 3 catches in both of those games, and very, very low yardage.
Moncrief and ASJ are.
I like Cole
you need
as well.
touchdowns. You need touchdowns. With
If
both.
Fournette plays, is why he's more of a flex for me because I can see the Jaguars up so much and they don't need to push the football because this is not a game they need to be aggressive in. It's only the Titans.
Probably not.
And that's
so.
where I lean
Game
flex.
script is the one thing that
Yes.
hurts
And you
everything
can't
I like
predict-
about them here.
you can't predict it.
that, but if I were going to predict that, this is not a good game script for the Jags.
Vegas is agreeing
Receivers.
with your predictions. So.
Yes, I like. So that's pretty much for that.
All right. Bengals at the Panthers. Panthers by 3, 43.5 point over under. Can the Hurricane victims get themselves a win for the home team?
Wow. So
Jesus.
starting at, it was dark. Starting with the Bengals, Andy Dalton is my second favorite streaming option this week behind Blake Bortles. Actually, I may have that wrong because I think that I like the game script in this one more. Andy Dalton's thrown for 6 touchdowns, just 1 interception over the first 2 games. He's also only taken 2 sacks. So that offensive line's holding up in pass protection. Matt Ryan last week was an efficient 23-28 for 272 and 2.
And 2 rushing touchdowns.
And 2 more on the ground. So I like Andy Dalton this week as a streamer. On the running back side of things, Gio Bernard, there's going to be no Joe Mixon in this one either. Carolina's middle of the road run defense. They gave up 100 plus to Coleman last week. Dalton can keep the field open because he's got 2 viable wide receivers now. So I like Gio Bernard as a high-end running back too.
I agree.
A low to ones. You're absolutely starting him if you have him. AJ Green, no duh. Start your studs. Tyler Boyd, 5 targets week 1, 9 last week. As long as the volume's there, I like his upside. He's got the wide receivers 3 type of upside for me this week. So I don't know that he's going to do what he did last week in this one, but
I want to see him get the 7 to 10 target range again this week, and then I'll be 100%
It depends
sold.
how the Panthers' offense plays. I do like Boyd this week, though.
yeah, if you need a dart throw, it's not a bad one.
I agree.
The tight end situation's a mess. Uzoma, Eifert, and Croft are all kind of splitting right now, so just don't.
Yeah, Eifert's not getting enough snaps.
No,
he
he's
is
still on a pitch count.
He's borderline droppable.
He is droppable.
He is droppable
I mean,
unless you're in Scott Fish. And-
always.
Yikes. All right. Anything else on the Bengals?
Nope.
Defense, they're kind of that fringe start for me this week.
I have similar feelings about both defenses in this matchup.
I do too.
I
They're
do
both
too.
they're both very fringe because I like the pass rush, especially with Geno Atkins getting after Cam. Speaking of Cam, completed 70% of his passes for 300 plus yards and 3 touchdowns last week. It's only his 3rd game that he's done that. He did do this in back-to-back weeks last October, however. Those were the other 2. only 3 quarterbacks have rushed for more than 70 yards against Cincinnati since the start of 2016. Watson, Mariota, and somehow Kevin Hogan.
Kevin Hogan?
Yeah. Hollywood Kevin Hogan. And then Cincinnati's allowed quarterbacks over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns in both games this year. So Cam Newton, you drafted him to start. I think he gives you kind of somewhere in between his floor and his ceiling this week. He gives you like the second floor of a 2-level house, I guess, is what I'm going for here.
I get you.
You
So-
get it.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
So better than the median, but not great.
Better than the median, but not a blow-up game. And that's because of the pass rush and because of Geno Atkins. I think they keep contained on him at least decently.
Yep.
Christian McCaffrey, since 2016, Cincinnati has allowed only 6 running backs over 50 receiving yards. However, 5 of those have come since week 7 of last season, including to Alex Collins in week 1. Cincinnati's not given up more than 40 yards on the ground yet this year, though. That was against the Bengals and wait, that doesn't make sense. That was against the Ravens. Christian McCaffrey continues to not carry the ball much, under 10 yards both weeks with no rush touchdowns. So full PPR, I love him. Half PPR, it's all right. Standard, don't start him.
I mean, at this point, it's basically if you're like they don't seem to give a shit about running Christian McCaffrey.
No, they're going to give him 10 to 14 targets a game.
They're just going to make sure he oblitterates the reception record.
Right. So,
And I don't mean the running back reception record. I mean the reception
I don't play.
record.
I don't play in standard leagues. I don't give a fuck about that.
you shouldn't be playing in a standard league.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
He's kind of a back end RB1 for me this week. Devin Funchess and Julius Wright, I don't love either. Cincinnati only allowed 46 yards to T.Y. Hilton. He bailed his day out by a touchdown. So Funchess is kind of a wide receiver 3 for me, and Wright, even though he's gotten the volume, I'm not doing it this week. He's pretty matchup dependent.
No,
on if I'm gonna recommend
especially
that
with
or
the
not.
talk that it might be DJ Moore taking some of those snaps.
Yep. So just watch that. Ian Thomas, 3 targets last week. He's a big swing if you need it. Cincinnati will get burned by tight ends, 50-plus yards the first 2 weeks and 2 touchdowns given up. So, the volume's not there for him, but Cincinnati's weak against that position, so it depends on how much you trust Ron Rivera's game planning. If you need a home run swing at tight end, I don't hate it.
He was getting outsnapped, and I'm going to have to look up the name here. He was getting outsnapped by Chris Manhertz last week.
Well, and Manhertz could happen again because of the Cincinnati pass rush. So
I would desperately try to avoid Ian
I didn't even
Thomas.
know there was a tight end named Manhertz. It's so punnable.
He needs to blow up desperately.
Man hurts.
Let's
go.
Man, that hurts. Anyway, I'm done.
Okay. That's all you got? Yeah. Broncos at the Ravens. Ravens favored by 5.5, 44.5 over under on this one. Dan, I'm assuming you're starting with the Broncos.
We're starting with the Broncos. Starts here, the wide receiver duo, Sanders and Thomas. Sanders gets it done from anywhere on the field. Right now, he's the wide receiver 9 on the season and halfway in PPR leagues. Tyler Boyd was the primary slot receiver against the Ravens in week 2, Thursday night. Went 6 for 91 and a touchdown on 9 targets.
And AJ
I
Green,
like Sanders.
AJ Green also scored out of the slot, so
3 times. Not on the slot 3 times, but he fucking
Scored
scores
3
everything.
times.
Love
God damn it.
Sanders, and I hope you're right.
And the production hasn't been there for Thomas, but the volume has, so that needs to right itself eventually. I think he's had 10 plus targets to start the season in each of these games, so just needs some volume there. And Ravens' outside duel was good, but as we've seen, they can give up some touchdowns against physical receivers. As for flex plays, just the defense, this isn't a great matchup. Baltimore can put up points as we've seen, but there's a lot of potential for sacks and turnovers here, so that's why I like the Broncos as a potential streamer this week. As for the bench, I have Keenum and both the running backs. There's just a lot of better matchups for Keenum. He's been hot and cold to start this year. Didn't have a touchdown last week. Was saved his week by a rushing touchdown. Ravens got beat up pretty badly against the Bengals week 1, but they really hammered down this passing game in the second half of the season, or in the second half of the game. So I don't love Keenum this week. As for the running backs, great story with Phillip Lindsay. Terrible matchup here. Ravens have only given up 6 receptions to the running back position. I know Phillip Lindsay's been good. He's been good between the tackles. I think he leads the league in most rushing yards up the middle, but he's still just a home run play. Ravens have also only given up 3.8 yards per carry, so I don't like Royce Freeman that much either. I get it if you have to play Freeman because he was a 3rd or 4th round pick, depending on when you drafted, but I would avoid both running backs. As for the Ravens here, your only start here is Tucker because in Tucker we trust. As for the flex plays, the running backs here, the defense, and John Brown. The running backs right now, Buck Allen has outsnapped Alex Collins. He's outperformed Alex Collins. He's out-touched him, and he gets the goal line work. And I like this game script a little bit more format. I think this game could be a little more pass-heavy as we expected from these teams, as both defenses aren't as elite as they used to be. But I also like Collins because he mirrors Lynch's running ability. Lynch had a good game against him last week, so he could get you a couple touchdowns, or he could get you a goal line touchdown if the Ravens get there. And the Denver's weakness comes and forms the pass catchers, so I like Buck Allen. As for the receiver, John Brown, I don't like the matchups for either of these guys here, but Roby hasn't got off to the hot start. That's who John Brown will likely see. Roby's given up 12 yards per target and 12 yards per reception. So potential big play for John Brown.
So he hasn't stopped a single target?
Pretty much. He's seen 9 targets in 2 games. So he got kind of burned against Cooper last week.
Well, because you gave the exact same figure for catches and targets.
Yeah,
so
I know. Yeah. So
not a great start for him.
Not the great start that I'm sure Broncos fans hopes there. So I like John Brown as a flex play for that week. As for the defense, also flex play. Keenum takes a lot of risk, and Ravens tend to feast on those type of risks. Also, shoddy O-line. Broncos are better against the run. Or Broncos protection is better against the run than the pass. So I like the Ravens defense. It's a flex play potentially. As for the bench, I'm going to bench Flacco and probably the rest of these pass catchers. Flacco couldn't really get it going until late last week, and Crabtree gives you more floor than upside.
And is Jimmy Smith back this week?
No,
No?
he's still on suspension.
I thought it's not 2 games?
I thought it was 4.
Okay, I may be wrong.
I thought it was 4 also.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think he's back yet.
All right. Next game, Colts at the Eagles. Eagles favored by 7, 47.5 point over-under on this one. Starting with the Colts, Luck faced a defense that held Matt Ryan to under 10 points, but let Ryan Fitzpatrick go for over 30. I think this game is probably closer to the first one, so I'm recommending you probably sick Luck in 1 quarterback leagues. He is missing Doyle in this one, but if you're really desperate, he's probably around quarterback 13 to 15 type range this week. Max out, so that actually makes a decent start of both Hines and Wilkins as borderline flex-worthy considerations. I prefer Wilkins of the 2 because he should get more work, but I expect Hines to see a decent amount of work in the passing game like you saw week 1. If you're in PPR leagues, he might give you a decent floor. Hilton at this point is basically playing last man standing. He practiced in full Friday, so he's healthy to go. He's a must-start wide receiver, too. Speed guys actually do decently well against the Eagles. We saw what happened last week. Jackson put up 20.9 points in half-point PPR. Hilton at this point, I would consider better than Jackson, so
I would
he may get a deep.
Strongly agree with you there.
He may get a deep shot this week. I like Hilton as a high-end wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 1. Ryan Grant, on the other hand, desperation PPR flex at best. He's probably going to see some shutdown corner play this week, and he's not athletic enough to make anything happen. Ebron also playing a little bit of last man standing with no Doyle. He's got a touchdown in both games so far. He is effectively their entire red zone offense. So you started over players like Howard, James, maybe even guys like Trey Burton or Kyle Rudolph this week. He's going to get a lot of targets. He's going to get all the snaps. I actually like Ebron this week in a game where they're probably going to be losing.
I like him a lot more with Doyle's out.
Love Ebron with Doyle out.
All right. Anything else on the Colts? I'm assuming we're probably not wanting to start Vinatieri or the defense.
No.
Never start the defense.
Vinatieri, nah, probably not. As much as I love Vinny, he's the GOAT.
It's in Philly.
But he's also
He's
old,
also
on the
going
road,
against
out of the
Philly,
dome.
on the road.
In a game they should probably lose.
You
Yeah.
spoke too many words on kickers.
For the Eagles, I love Wentz.
It's never
He is
too many
back.
words for Vinny.
True.
Dan doesn't feel the same way.
For me, it's mostly let's just see. A lot of receivers are hurt. He lost Jason Peters. He doesn't have JJ.
He has Jason Peters.
I've been wrong before on things, but I read that he's hurt. I don't know if he's playing or not. But either way, a lot of streaming options. You don't have to throw Wentz out there if you don't have to. And they could be up big, which means more running game. Either way, that's why my rankings on him is as low as it is. Not because of Wentz, because I don't think you need to rush him out there.
Jeffrey does worry me. Only league I have him, I have Rivers and him, so I'm starting
I would
him.
play Wentz over Rivers, yes. I believe I had that right, too.
I've got him as a back-end quarterback 1 this week.
Yeah, no.
Ajayi and Sproles are both out, so Clement moves into must-start running back 2 territory. And if you're in a very, 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 very ultra super deep league, they're goal line back is going to be Josh Adams, and they really don't have anyone else to take that role. So he may be a desperation type play for you this week.
Jason Peters is playing.
He's set to play. Yep. He did get hurt. That's why.
He got hurt, but he is playing.
Yep.
Aguilar is an absolute must start at this point. He's tied for 8th in the NFL in targets. Beyond that, though, not starting any other pass catchers unless Jeffrey announces he's suiting up Sunday.
Well, and Zach Ertz.
I meant for
He
wide
said
receiver.
pass
sorry.
catchers, not receivers.
I fuck up with that a lot. Ertz is an auto start. He gets Wentz back, who loves him in the red zone. I generally say lower expectations. It's time to raise some expectations with Ertz this week now that Wentz is back.
13 targets last week.
Let's get some more productive targets this week.
Let's go for 15 this week.
I don't even give me 10 with Wentz.
Give me
over
15 for both Ertz and Aguilar. Let's fucking do it.
Let's go.
Let's fucking go.
And then Elliott and Eagles defense, both solid starts this week against some questionable pass blocking from the Colts, and Elliott has been an awesome kicker. Dan finished up with the noon games. We got Saints at the Falcons. Falcons favored by 3. Our second game over 53.5 on this one.
Yeah, there's a lot of score in this game. Let's start with the Saints here. You're going to start your big three and Breeze, Kamara, and Michael Thomas. You can also start Will Lutz. As for Breeze, Ingram is, until Ingram comes back, his running game is a fucking cluster hell in terms of between the tackles. A lot of throwing.
hell?
Cluster hell. I don't know. Cluster fuck, whatever.
There we go.
Breeze is a must start every
I like
week.
cluster hell.
It works. Breeze is the must start at this point. Kamara and Michael Thomas are also auto starts and must starts this week. Well, Lutz is a good play. As for flex options here, Ted Ginn. Ted floor seems to be 5 receptions for 60 yards. So Cooper Kupp, Adam Thielen-ish. I think Thielen's is even higher at this point. The only issue for Ginn is his health, which he seems to be fine at the moment. As for Ben Watson, Atlanta's been good against tight ends this season, but Watson seems to be the number 3, 4. Depends. Probably more 4. Depends on where Ginn falls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would take Ginn over.
It'd be Thomas
Watson.
Kamara, then probably Ginn and Watson. He got missing a touchdown last week, but there's not a lot of tight end volume there. As for the bench play, you're not playing their defense. Atlanta, your starters Matt Ryan, Tevin Coleman, Julio Jones, and Matt Bryant. Matt Ryan is a good streaming option for you this week. Saints dominated him last year when they held him to 2 touchdowns and 4 picks, averaged 215 yards in those games. But Atlanta's offense seems to be a lot better than they were last year. Better.
Yep. And Steve Sarkisian is no longer my most hated offensive
And he had 2 rushing
coordinator.
touchdowns last week, so fuck it, right now, right?
Nope. Mike McCoy.
Yep.
As for the running game, Tevin Coleman, you are going to start. He was my start of the week. He's also my buy candidate for early season. With Freeman out, Coleman's pretty much a high-end RB2 with RB1 upside. Get him in your lineups. Immediately, Julio Jones, you're not going to sit him. Flex plays Austin Hooper. He's had a nice start to the season. He's at 8 receptions, 83 yards and a touchdown on 9 targets. We like the volume to be there, but the matchup is nice because of the volume, because of the potential volume and game script for him. Bench really and Sanu. I like what really showed us last week. Sanu is not getting. He's getting the targets. He's doing absolutely nothing with those targets. Just want to see that flip a little bit more for more Ridley.
Ridley's a watch. Sanu's a drop.
Yes. And that's it for that game.
All right. That's all we've got for noon games. Let's hit a beer review.
Beer review.
All right. For the beer that has the quote on it, if they do it, I do it times 2 from Chill Moody. I don't know who that is.
We should figure it out.
We've got Doc Streets, Nice Things IPA. What'd you guys think, especially with it washing down the Bud Light?
It was a nice thing. It's definitely hot forward. Pretty nice malty sweetness that pokes through kind of on the back there, but it's a very hot forward IPA. I tend to like it a lot. A little bit less citrusy, more piney than what we're used to, but it's really good.
I'm forgetting which hops that is. That's more piney.
Is that Mosaic that's a piney?
The Amarillo ones.
Because I thought the Mosaic kind of stood out on the front end. It's more citrus on the front, but I definitely
Mosaic's
see
a little bit more citrusy. Is there Amarillo in this?
There is.
Amarillo and Simcoe.
Yeah, Amarillo's piney.
I
know
definitely
that.
taste the malt sweetness on the back end, and then the bitterness, even though it's only a 38 IBU, kind of just lingers a little bit. But
Not-
it's a very good IPA.
Not an intense bitterness though. Just
No,
kind
no,
of a-
it's subtle. It's there.
No, it's a really good IPA.
Yeah, this is a very, very good IPA, especially as a
thank you,
chaser.
Alex.
Yep. Thank you very much, Alex, for that.
You sent us beer when other people have been supposed to send us beer for 2 years now.
We haven't been doing this 2 years, but
A year plus. Not
You know what we mean.
You know who you are.
I don't know. I'm pretty buzzed right now. I'm not sure what I mean. All right.
Oh, I mean, we did pound a pounder.
2.
All right.
Actually, I'm
2.
down. I'm down 2.
I'm almost done with 2. Yeah.
Same here.
All right. Anything else we got on the beer review?
No.
All right. Well,
I got to keep moving.
shout out Doc Street. Let's go ahead and hit on to the 3 o'clock games. Chargers at the Rams. Rams favored by 7. 48-point over-under for the battle for LA. Hopper, what can we expect in this game?
Rams win the Battle of LA.
Cool.
Probably.
As for the Chargers, Phillip Rivers absolute sits this week. Rams have given him no touchdowns, 4 picks this season. Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler. Gordon will be fine with his goal line upside, his touchdown upside. Lynch had 41 and a touchdown against these guys. Rashard had 55 yards receiving. Gordon's going to get the bulk of that. David Johnson was efficient on his carries. Eckler, I'd kind of pulled back on this one a little bit. Just because I don't think he can give you the efficiency that he's had in previous weeks. A lot of people are saying he's the pass catcher, but that's not really the case.
They both are.
Yep.
So most of that volume is going to go to Gordon. So Eckler I'd pulled back on. Just the wide receivers, Keenan Allen, I think is versatile enough to where they can scheme him kind of away from whatever they're doing. He's going to be running out of the slot some. Should be clear of Peters, but Talib may shadow. So
You're not sitting Allen.
you're not sitting Keenan
It's week 3.
Allen, though. I wouldn't start any other wide receiver here, though.
Mm-mm.
Antonio Gates, if he plays, is a Hail Mary. Cook burned them week 1. It's the only weakness the Rams have really shown. Virgil Green, if Gates doesn't play, again, nothing more than a Hail Mary, though. But it's really the only way you can attack these guys besides the running backs.
All right. On to the Rams.
On to the Rams. Jared Goff, expect a normal, streamable Goff day of about 270 and 2. It's just what you tend to get from him. Todd Gurley, start your studs. As for the wide receivers, Hill went scorched earth for 169 and 2 in week 1. So Cooks is an absolute start just because of the speed factor. Cooper Kupp's giving you 60 plus in both games, so he's a pretty okay flex. Woods seen 9 targets in each of the last 2 games, so the volume's there for him. Again, I kind of like him less than the other 2 running outside. But as usual with the Rams, all 3 wide receivers at least get flex consideration. Cooks is a start. Kupp and Woods you can flex.
Mm-hmm.
At tight end, just stay away from it. Higbee and Everett are still splitting. That's it.
Rams defense.
Rams defense, obviously.
Okay. And Ficken.
Ficken?
He's all right.
He's all right.
He's not Zerline, so you're gonna gotta be wary of that. But they are gonna.
Chargers.
I
still
don't
have a
know that the
decent
score.
defense.
The Chargers have a decent defense also, so I don't love this. He's streamable kicker,
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah.
He's not a 1 for me.
No.
All right. Well, let's go to a game where there
Probably
is a lopsided matchup. Bears at the Cardinals. Bears favored by 6. I would take the Bears on that one. 38-point over-under for the lowest of the week. On the Bears side, even an awesome matchup, I want nothing to do with Trubisky. He's been 14 and 16.4 points through 2 weeks. And I think in this game, they make it up early and you have to throw even less. So don't like Trubisky at all in this one. On the flip side, love Howard.
Yeah.
Cardinals have given up 21.6 or more fantasy points to 3 running backs in 2 weeks. Howard is a must-start running back 1, and Cohen isn't even a bad low-end running back 3 flex-type desperation
Howard's
play.
my 3 this week.
And I may need to bump him up my rankings if I readjust.
I can't
here.
go any higher, though.
We're hoping Cohen can do some inner Chris Thompson this week and maybe get 5-6 catches and make a couple big plays.
That would be the high end.
Only receiver I want is Allen Robinson. It's not a strong recommendation because he probably gets the Patrick Peterson treatment, but he's the only one getting any sort of serious
They're not
volume.
shadowing Peterson. I read an article on this
Really?
earlier in the week.
Then I love Robinson.
Then I like Robinson a lot more.
Wilkes came out and said week 1 that they are not going to do the Patrick Peterson shadowing thing. They're keeping him on one side of the field, which is just stupid.
Yeah,
But
Especially with
All right.
Robinson playing
so
the slot a lot,
Wilkes
too.
gets fired year 1.
yeah, I hope.
Mid-season.
But yeah,
Now,
I read,
McCoy gets fired midseason. Wilkes will get fired.
but
at
yeah,
the
I
end.
read an article, I think it was Pro Football Talk actually, that put that out too, so it was reputable.
So I like
Good.
Robinson
I
even
like
more than I
that.
did. He's seen 21 targets through 2 games. So he is definitely still a start. It's probably low wide receiver 2. If he's not getting shadowed, maybe more of a mid wide receiver 2.
Right.
Gabriel's been used more as a pass catching running back, so don't like him very much. Miller's not getting more than 4 targets a game. Don't like him. The Cardinals have a lot of touchdown to tight ends in both games, though. So at this point, you're probably starting Burton anyway, and he should get you enough targets to at least be kind of a top 6 to 8 tight end, especially if he can get it into the end zone. Defense, top 3 this week. Love them. They may finish as your defense 1. This is such a good, juicy matchup for them. Under the Cardinals, I have a poem.
A poem, sir?
I would not start him in a pinch. I would not start him with a Finch. Don't consider him in your flex. I'm pretty sure this team is hexed. Do not start Bradford IM, even though his name is Sam.
Wow.
Bench Sam Bradford. This is a terrible
You put
matchup.
way too much thought into Sam
God,
Bradford.
yeah.
It was
Kudos,
pro Football Focus, by the way.
Good to know.
So PFF.
Yes.
David Johnson is
love
still
that.
a start, but Mike McCoy makes my hate of Steve Sarkisian look paltry in comparison. Offense needs to get itself together. It sounds like they are going to try to throw more to David Johnson just to get the offense working, which does help insulate his floor. Maybe he can get you a Barkley-type day where he gets 10 catches.
I expect him to overcorrect the David Johnson
I
problem.
really need them to overcorrect
I do.
because
I do
David
expect
Johnson
him
needs
to.
to get going. And my OC Deadpool pick is Mike McCoy.
I hope.
Larry Fitzgerald is healthy, and he's the only receiver I'm feeling confident about. He's getting 5 targets a half.
Yeah, it's volume.
That's so
It's
good.
volume.
Yeah.
for
It
him.
is.
So if he gets you a full game, he'll get you into double digits. He'll have a safe day. All their pass catchers, including NASCAR himself, Ricky Seals-Jones,
No.
on the bench. Defense is actually okay as a desperation play because Trubisky is good for a pick or two most games.
Yeah, he's not going to scorch him.
I don't love him, but you could do worse. All right, enough about that. Cowboys at the Seahawks. Seahawks favored by 1.5 for some reason. Hopper, you got this one.
You point. I like it when you point to Dan.
And
then I pointed to you.
Yeah.
Every other time I've had to point to Dan after I've talked, so this is the first time I changed it up.
All right, Cowboys Seahawks. Dak Prescott. He's yet to throw a pick. Seattle gave up 329 and 3 to Keenum, 202 to Trubisky. Dak's also rushing for a decent amount of yardage, so he's kind of a back end streamer for me. Zeke, you're going to start your studs. Beasley, Hearns, Gallup, Thompson, Butler. That should tell you enough to know that you don't want to start this mess. Butler's back. Watch that. Other than that, Beasley's dealing with an ankle. Nobody's done anything. Nobody's taken the lead here. Same thing with tight ends. It's just a mixed bag. So, Dak, if you're desperate for a quarterback, Zeke, definitely nothing else for the Cowboys,
Yep.
even in this matchup.
Oh, I actually don't hate the Cowboys defense.
Yes, the defense is fine. They're leading the league in sacks, and they're going up against Seattle's offensive line.
So
I do
4-6
like
sacks.
yeah, I love the defense this week. That was my other big pickup besides Cincinnati and Cleveland. Like, I like those 3 defenses a decent amount. As for Seattle, Russell Wilson, garbage time saved him against a good pass rush last week. He has another one this week as far as a good pass rush. So he's a back-end quarterback 1 for me. Dalton, Bortles, Garoppolo are available. I kind of like their upside more than Wilson's this week. I know that's weird to say, but he doesn't have a real reliable receiver right now without Doug Baldwin, and that offensive line got shredded, and they're not getting any easier this week. If it wasn't for garbage time, we would have given you a dud last week. As for the running backs, Carson and Penny, receiving backs seem to be the way to attack Dallas. However, neither one of them has really taken that role. It's very split. Carson's been efficient as a runner, but they do keep sending Penny out there as well. So I really want to start neither. If I have to start one, it's Carson. McCaffrey did go for 5 yards of carry in addition to his receiving work. He's a French flex play. I don't expect it to be a great game, but I don't expect him to kill you either if you have to do
And
that.
watch Pro Sice is the best running back this week for some reason.
Because pass catchers do it, I guess, but he hasn't really been used at all. Wide receivers, Marshall and Lockett both remain flex consideration and nothing more. Beckham was held to 51 yards. It's the most given up by Dallas so far. Marshall's getting targets. Lockett always has a chance for a big play, though. So if you have to, you could do worse than those two.
I would try to
but-
bench all Seahawks where possible this week.
trying to stay away from that. Ingram did have a great day last week as far as the tight ends go for 67-1. Disley has been the most productive in the receiving game, but last week it was all garbage time. He is out targeting Vanette 10 versus 7. So desperation, just another desperate tight end play that I don't hate, even though I'm not in love with it, but really just avoid anything other than Russell Wilson on this if you can, because Dallas's defense is pretty good.
All right, that's all we got.
That's all I got.
All right, wrapping up the afternoon games on a somber note, let's get to some blowouts for the last 2 games. Lions at the Patriots. Patriots favored by 7, 53.5 point over-under for a third 50-plus over-under game of the week. Dan, What are we expecting in this one?
Lions start Stafford, the wide receiver trio. Stafford, beautiful turnaround game against Niners this past week. He also gets the Patriots, who just surrendered 4 touchdowns, 375 yards to Blake Bortles. Great matchup for Stafford. As for the receivers, Tate and Galladay are your wide receiver 11 and 12. Hold on.
Don't want to feel left out.
Oh, damn it.
Way to go.
As for the receivers here, Tate and Galladay are your wide receiver 11 and 12 and half PPR to start this season. I love them all this week. There's going to be a lot of throwing in this game, especially with the over-under being as it is. And New England just gave up 16 receptions, 245 yards, 3 touchdowns on 26 targets to these Jag receivers in week 2. As for your flex plays, Theo Riddick, the game script seems to favor Riddick. And the Lions tend to now want to throw these short passes to set up their bigger passes.
They're
It's
using
a running
standard
game.
Jim Bob Cooter offense.
They're using what Stafford's used to using at this point. As for your bench plays, Johnson and Blunt, and you never want to start a tight end here. As for Johnson and Blunt, they're just not getting enough volume. Johnson's finally trying to take over the first and second down role, but the game script otherwise tends to lead. You want to stay away from that. As for the Patriots here, you're going to start your Brady, your Gronk, and your Gostowskis. Brady gets a great matchup against a garbage Lions defense, starting with confidence, and Gronk because, flex plays, the running backs, and the receivers. The running back trio. I like James White the most this week. Game script tends to favor that as well. With a lot of scoring in this game, New England's going to have to pass as well. I believe he got 8 targets against Jacksonville last week, and the Lions offense tends to want to throw a shit ton, so keeping them points up. As for the running backs here, or as for your first, second down backs, Michelle and Burkhead, this one's a tough one to figure out. Burkhead got game scripted out last week. Michelle looked to be the better runner. Lions have also given up back-to-back 60-plus yard touchdown runs, so Michelle is a dart throw for me. But I have him and Burkhead both kind of ranked there. It just depends if they want to fix this right.
So in the positive note for the receivers for the Lions, or for the Patriots, Slay is not going to play.
He's not?
He's
Good, because he's
doubtful.
only had 3 targets on him all year, all 2 weeks. So that means Chris Hogan's probably a good play this week.
Flyer.
Yeah. That's that.
All right, well, let's take us home here. Monday Night Football, Steelers at the Buccaneers. Steelers are favored by 1.5 with a 54-point over-under for our 4th 50-plus game of the week. Kicking it off with the Steelers. Road Ben still gets the start grade in this game. This should be a shootout.
It's a great matchup.
4th game of the week with over-under a 53 or more. This is going to be a high-scoring fantasy week.
It's going to be fun to watch Fitzpatrick throw 3 picks on Monday night.
And then Winston gets rolled out in the next week.
Yeah.
At halftime.
It is still road Ben, though, so expect low QB1 numbers. He is not nearly as good on the road at home. I'm not sure why, but we have multiple years of
It's
this.
just always been a thing.
Connor put up 17 last week in a pretty awful performance and gets the Buccaneers that have allowed 25-plus points from both Saints and Eagles running backs so far this year, and then there's no one to take work from him. Start away. He's a running back 1. Don't even consider it. Brown and Juju are both wide receiver 1 grades this week, and after we've seen from Juju for the first couple weeks, they might both be for the rest of the season. They've both been awesome.
That's pretty much correct.
This has been a great start to the season for both of them. I love them both this week. If you can start both in the league where you took them both, do it.
Shout out to Lindsay.
Shout out, Lindsay. Live studio audience did that.
Jesse James is a borderline start grade here. You may be able to find a better option than him, but you can beat this Buccaneers secondary. He's been the number 3 target for this team so far this year. I'm a little worried that as McDonald gets more healthy, it'll kill James, but so far he's been excellent. He's a tight end 1 through 2 weeks. And if you own the Steelers defense in Boswell, you should have dropped them already. I don't know why you're crossing your fingers for that.
Jesse James.
The road dog.
Ryan Fitzpatrick is our consensus quarterback 5 for the Buccaneers.
He's fucking doing it.
He's Dan Stream of the week.
He is doing it.
If he's even half as magical as he was the first 2 weeks, he's going to explode against this.
This is the
Fitz
magic. You know, deep bomb the Jackson is where he's gonna go.
It's going to happen in the first 4 plays again.
It probably.
It's been
Usually
back-to-back
does.
weeks. So the first 2 defensive quarterbacks that have faced this Steelers defense, Taylor and Mahomes, both had top 6 finishes. So if he's even half as magical, expect another top 6 finish.
Yeah.
And Tyrod Taylor, by the way, not magic.
No.
Hyde and Hunt both saved their days with touchdowns against the Steelers, so Barber is kind of an RB3 here. But they really have no one else to give the ball to. It looks like I don't expect Rojo to be active in this game. They're not giving Jacquizz Rodgers the ball. So Barber is an okay if you have no better options.
You should have better options.
Let's hope.
Probably.
On the passing game, on the other hand, first 2 weeks, the Steelers have given up 90-plus to 3 receivers, Landry, Hill, and Watkins. Evans is a top 10, borderline top 5 play this week.
Yep.
Godwin and Jackson are both upside wide receiver 3s. I'm starting all 3 of them between all my leagues. Very, very happy.
All they do is score touchdowns
I'm
at this point.
Not even worried about
My
it.
problem with Godwin is that because of the way my teams are structured, I have like Aguilar and Juju ahead of him, and I can't do that.
Those situations, yes. I would.
Yeah.
I have
would
Godwin
so much-
going
I
in a couple
really
leagues.
want to pull the trigger on Godwin, and I just don't have a situation where I can.
But I definitely have a lot of situations where I can pull the trigger on Godwin. I'm doing it with confidence.
Yep.
Onto the
Not a
tight
bad
end.
problem to have, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Onto the tight end position. If you own Brait, you should have dropped him already. And then OJ Howard is a fringe start. Kelsey went off for 26 points in week 2, so tight ends can beat this team. Howard is athletic enough to do anything as long as he can get the target volume. That's my main concern here is will Fitzpatrick
5?
give him the ball?
5 targets through 2 games. Not
Yep.
good.
He's had 2 in the first game, 3 in the second, but he's done stuff with the volume. So expected okay floor. He'll probably catch 1 and break another big play. But it's not an enthusiastic recommendation. You're probably like somebody else is holding 3 of the better tight ends.
You have to play him at
You have
this
to play
point.
him. And then actually Kenton Zaros tied for kicker 11. He's looked pretty good. You could definitely do worse than him.
You went into kicker
I did.
fantasy rankings.
It's the second highest
Wow.
over-under of the week. Buccaneers defense, on the other hand, is a hell no. That's all I got for Monday Night Football here. Let's go ahead and wrap up this episode. One last shout out to Squad QL for sponsoring the episode. Remember to subscribe to YouTube. Catch us live 10:30 in the morning on Sundays. We'll be slightly less drunk than we are now. We'll be talking news and actives and answering your start-sit questions. Remember that is Central Time. Beerfield Fantasy Football. Find us on YouTube. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. On Monday, we'll go ahead and recap all the Sunday games for you, let you know what happened there. Wednesday, we're going to let you know that after 3 weeks, what we've watched, what we feel like we got wrong in the preseason. So we're going to go ahead and self-shame a little bit. Beyond that, though, good luck in week 3. We are Beerfield Fantasy Football, Beerfield FF on Twitter. Individually, Nick Sparts, Dan Thury across the table,
at 30 BFF. Peace out, guys.
Christopher Hopper,
At Hot BFF with 2 Ps.
and we'll catch you guys next time on Beerfield Fantasy Football. See you Sunday morning.
All this energy calling me.
Right where it belongs. It's such a good attitude.
It's
Right where it belongs. All the little chicks with the creams and lips go Cleveland rocks. Cleveland rocks. Living in sin with a safety pin. Go Cleveland rocks. Cleveland rocks. Cleveland rocks. Cleveland rocks.
Shout out Cleveland.
Cleveland rocks. Cleveland rocks. It's Quaker season. Here we fucking go.
Bye, guys.
Peace.